Finding problems? That's easy. They exist in every community. I'm Terry Springs, your host. We're looking deeper, and we are talking solutions. Finding out how we all can make a difference. This week's show a little different for me because I was diagnosed with MS back in the late 80s. Got Angela VanBrackle from the MS Society in studio with us today. Before we get to talking about multiple sclerosis, why don't we start by filling everybody in on the big Bike MS event? That's the next one coming up, right?
It is. Our next event is Bike MS, which is going to be held September 19th. And a lot of the people I have talked to about this are very excited. We had Bike MS, and then it got put on hold. We were always looking for a way to bring it back. And this year we were very lucky that Interbike, which is a huge cycling convention that's here every fall, and it's for the cycling industry. So it's where a lot of the shops and things like that go to learn all about the new bikes, wheels, gears. But then they also do a charity ride at the end of their week-long convention, and they've chosen to partner with the MS Society. So with that, any cyclist who registers for the Bike MS and does the minimum $100 fundraising gets free admission to Customer Appreciation Day at Interbike.
I was seeing that. That's on Friday the 18th, Mandalay Bay?
Yep, it's at the Convention Center at Mandalay Bay, and that's actually where packet pickup will be held as well as race morning. Then Saturday, September 19th, we have a one-day 30-mile or 50-mile ride. So we are able to bring Bike MS back, maybe at a small level, and then look to really grow it a little bit more next year. We are, again, very lucky. We have Interbike as a partner. We have some great sponsors. The start-finish is at the Rio parking lot, and the ride heads west towards Red Rock Canyon. Caesars Entertainment and Rio Hotel and Casino are a big sponsor. Nestle Beverage just came on as our water sponsor for the event. Land Rover Las Vegas donates the Start Finish Trust, entertainment, and some of the tables and chairs. So we have really great partners in this community that come out and help, as well as volunteers. We have a website, bikemslasvegas.org, where volunteers and cyclists can both sign up. And we need everything from aid stations out on the route to help that morning with just handing out and entertaining cyclists, cheering them on. It's a great opportunity to really come together and see why we do what we do. And it's a great fundraising opportunity as well. And that money we can funnel back into the community. You know, every year we have our annual walk, and I love that one because it really gets the MS community out and together. And that has a 1 mile and 3 mile options. You see people in all levels of their MS out there and socializing and being entertained and participating with that. The Bike MS is just another aspect. And even people living with MS, you know, they're like, well, I can't set up tables and chairs, and that's fine. I need people at the start-finish line to cheer on, maybe hand out snacks. So there's always opportunities. So don't ever feel that maybe you can't. Even in the office, you know, we're sending out information, we're making phone calls, anything like that. It's always a help.
You can call 702-736-7272. That's 702-736-7272. I like this partnership that you're talking about with Interbike, this huge bicycling convention at Mandalay Bay, and ride your bike through beautiful Red Rock Canyon, which is the most beautiful place to ride your bike anyway.
Yeah, nice early morning 50-mile bike ride.
Oh, man. 30 or 50, and with Interbike being in town, if you do the minimum $100 in pledge and get yourself signed up, you can also go to Friday at the Interbike convention at the Mandalay Bay Convention Center. So we got that on Friday the 18th. Bike MS happening Saturday the 19th. Yeah. So 30 and 50 miles.
Next year we may expand the distances. We're not sure whether it's going to be 1 day or 2 day. And part of that is really looking at the options. It's nice to have it back. I know it was greatly missed in the cycling community.
Yes.
And I've had such a positive reaction to everyone in the cycling community that I've presented it to, that it's back. And they're very excited for it. So we have people already signed up and they're doing their fundraising. And it's just a great takeoff for it. Interbike, they approached us and we're like, absolutely.
If you want to get information or sign up, you can check with bikemslasvegas.com. It's bikemslasvegas.com. We'll also put that information, links and everything, including a podcast of the show, on our Talking Solutions Facebook page. The 30 and 50 mile routes through that beautiful area of Red Rock Canyon, that sounds like an irresistible place to go ride the bike.
I wish I was the cyclist that could do 30 or 50 miles, but...
Me too.
I'll be there making sure you have a wonderful event instead of riding 50 miles.
No, I just want to see us raise a lot of money for what I consider to be a very great cause. I've been waiting for a while to talk about this particular topic. MS, as in multiple sclerosis. Angela VanBrackle, how long have you been in town? How long have you been with the MS Society?
I have been in town for 8 years, and I have been with the MS Society just over a year, so mid-May was my 1-year anniversary.
What brought you to the MS Society?
I actually have a relative and a few high school friends that have MS, and prior to this position, I was working on a research grant with the university. The grant was ending. It was just perfect timing and a very seamless transition into the MS Society for me.
Funny how things just fall together when they're supposed to happen that way.
Absolutely.
Well, I have found that talking with people about different causes, which we do all the time here on Talking Solutions, normally when they're related to a cause, there's a reason, there's a link. And so you're telling me that you actually have people that you know in your circle, in your family, friends that have MS. That makes perfect sense to me.
I believe that as well. And it's interesting, just in the people I've met within the MS Society, there's always some sort of personal connection to it. And it's nice to be able to make a difference or to educate, bring awareness to it. A lot of people don't understand what MS is, aren't even aware of what it is. So being able to bring that level of awareness to the community is a big help too.
I'm constantly fighting that battle, explaining to people what MS is, and in a lot of cases, what it is not.
Yes.
It's not MD. It's not Jerry's kids. It is not a muscle type disease. It's an autoimmune condition. To my understanding, and being that I've had it for a while, your immune system seems to believe that the myelin, the fatty substance that coats your nerves, is an enemy. So it turns on it. Your body basically, for some reason, turns on itself.
Absolutely. Yes.
And it causes some problems. They've described it over the years as it's almost like a frayed electrical cord on a lamp, how sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Especially when I talk to schools, that's my favorite example. That if there's a fray in your electric cord, sometimes that signal gets through and your light works and sometimes it doesn't. And that's exactly what happens with MS, where sometimes your body's working okay and other days the arms don't want to move or the eyes don't want to work. It's very interesting on some of those connections and just how different every single person with MS really presents with their symptoms and how their progression goes.
That is totally the way it is. I haven't met two people with MS, and I've met a lot of them over the past 2.5, 3 decades. I haven't met two who have symptoms that mirror someone else's. It's a very individualistic kind of disease.
It is. That makes it a little more difficult to diagnose as well as treat because the symptoms never present the same way and they never progress the same way. And I always thought, it's like a snowflake. I can have 3 people with MS and they will all different age group, different places they grew up, different symptoms when they start. And that makes it very difficult for doctors and neurologists to be able to pinpoint what it is. It's not a simple blood test. Say, yes, you have it. No, you don't. So that's another concern as well.
That's true. Angela VanBrackle is with us from the National Multiple Sclerosis Society, the Southern California and Nevada chapter.
Yes, we cover the LA and some of the beach cities, so Inland Empire, Fresno, kind of in that area, as well as all of Nevada. We have an office in Northern Nevada and then this one here in Southern Nevada, so we kind of split the state.
I think it's really interesting too, Angela, because when we were talking on the phone, setting up the interview, you were telling me how few people we actually have on staff for the MS Society, less than a handful of people.
Well, in Southern Nevada, it's me. Northern Nevada, we have 2. We have the director for Nevada is there, and then just part-time assistant. And then a majority of the people are based out of the Southern California area. We have a total of 13 field offices, 13 walk areas. So we have Fresno, we have Inland Empire, we have Santa Barbara, Bakersfield. So we have several different locations where there's usually 1 or 2 people on staff. And then we have a concentrated events team based out of LA that handles bike and walk for the most part. And then that's where more of the meat of the chapter office work gets done as far as like the finance and some of that stuff. So it's less than a handful.
That's good. Let them handle all that paperwork stuff. I don't want to be doing that.
Yeah, I don't either. So it's good that they're there.
The MS Society has realigned a little bit over the past years. I had been on board of directors back in the mid-90s. I can't believe this is coming on 20 years ago. Actually went to Washington, D.C. on behalf of the MS Society. We had intensive meetings with the FDA, the National Institutes of Health. We learned about issues with things like orphan drug acts, sunset drug laws, because with MS, even though we're starting to get the word out, people are starting to figure out what it is. We're getting the word out, raising awareness, but it's still a small population of people people who are affected by MS.
Yes, compared to some other things, it's still a very small population. I know here in Southern Nevada, we have approximately 2,500 people who have connected with the MS Society. So there may be others that just have never made contact with us for whatever reason that we're unaware of. And that's actually one of the concerns or interests we have going with some of the legislation is for neurodata collection, because we have pockets of information. We have some, maybe the VA has some, or this agency has some, and how can we share at least the numbers and the areas where there's more of a concentration, how many people are living with MS, so that we can research it better. We can try to figure out what it is that may be causing it, and then as well get some of the funding we need for the research and the medications. It's interesting, we're still meeting with legislators and trying to get different things through and ways to work together, and that's for all neurological. So outside of MS, the Parkinson's, the dementia, really just trying to pull all of the information from the different resources and say, okay, now we have more accurate numbers as to how many people we need to help out.
The number of people who have reached out and contacted the MS Society around here, 2,500. I've got MS, so to me, the world of MS, there's a lot of people who have it. Mm-hmm. But you're right, a lot of them probably have not made contact. If somebody who's listening this morning has a family member, a friend, someone in their circle of acquaintance, or themselves who are dealing with MS and would like to get in contact with you at the National MS Society here in town, how would they do that?
Best way to contact me is by phone. The number at the office is 702-736-7272. And that's a direct line into me. So if I'm not there and you leave me a voicemail, I will get back to you. The only staff member here in Las Vegas, if I'm out doing things like this or other meetings, sometimes it just goes to voicemail, but I always follow up with everyone that leaves a message.
Contact Angela if you want to call. And we'll make sure that this is also on our Talking Solutions Facebook page, along with the links and the podcast of our discussion today. 702-736-7272. We'll hit that again before the end of the interview. Now, it doesn't really bother me a whole lot that we have a small staff for the National MS Society handling things here in all of Nevada and Southern California, because that means, I'm sure, more of the money, funds that are raised for the cause, go directly to what it's intended for.
Exactly. So a majority of the money fundraised here in Southern Nevada actually goes to programs and different services for people in Southern Nevada living with MS. A small portion of it goes to research. We rely very heavily on volunteers. We have a great set of volunteers that come in regularly and help out in the office. And we're a great team. So I was in Reno last week. We had an event up there. So we all pitch in and help out wherever we can to make sure the events we do are a success. And like I said, volunteers make a difference. And somebody has a couple hours to come in and help file or answer phone calls. It's always a great help.
And then you get to spend time talking with somebody in the office besides just me on the phone calling you.
Sometimes it's a good conversation there, too.
Angela with National MS Society, right here in town to talk to her about, I find it a fascinating issue. Maybe that's just me since I've got it. I find it just to be a topic that I can discuss all day long. Phone number is 702-736-7272. You know, things have changed a lot. I was diagnosed a lot of years ago. I believe it was 1989. Where were you back then? I'm thinking grade school, maybe.
No, I was in high school. I graduated high school in 92. So.
Well, I'm a little ahead of you. When I was diagnosed, I was in Scottsdale. Okay. And you were saying just a few minutes ago that it's a little difficult to diagnose. What they did while I went through the diagnosis, first they eliminated things. Mm-hmm. They said, oh, no, you don't have that. That's not you. One day they were putting electrodes on me and doing some kind of thing where they were making my muscles respond. I go, wait a minute. You're shocking me a little bit to see how my muscles are responding, and I'm paying you for that, right? And they go, yeah. Good times. You know, one of the things that I think made a big difference on getting people diagnosed with MS, that was also the time when MRIs were first becoming available for use. Mm-hmm. So they were finally able to look inside the skull and see the white spots, the lesions on the brain or on the spinal cord, which is where you find the signs of MS.
Yes.
And depending on where the lesions are, it also helps to tell us what parts of your body it most affects.
Yes. The technology, and it's only improved from there. And that's really how a lot of people end up with that diagnosis is with the MRIs, and they're seeing the lesions in different areas, and they can coordinate, okay, this lesion is probably the cause of those symptoms that you're having. It's unfortunate that it's still a process process, and it's not an easy diagnosis. And usually in people I've talked to, when it's something big, whether maybe they wake up and they can't see, where there might be a lesion near their optic nerve, where they're losing use of a limb, is when they really start to seek the answers. But they can often trace back before then, like, oh, well, when I started to feel this, or, this started to happen. So they probably were experiencing some early symptoms from it. Numbness and tingling, some of us brush that off. It's just like, oh, maybe I'm tired today, or, with the fatigue. It's interesting to see how they can reset their timeline once they get that diagnosis.
Yeah.
To really
I'm just looking at you and just agreeing. That is so true. When I got my diagnosis in 89, we were able to look back at an episode that I'd had 6 or 7 years before, where I woke up one day right before New Year's, very stressful time of the year at the holidays, and I was trying to get everything done and work all the time. Woke up with no feeling from the neck down, and they could not figure it out. They put me in the hospital, and they went through all the fun things. Oh, you might have a brain tumor. Thanks for that info. I didn't have any of that. They were not able to diagnose MS at that point in time because they didn't have the MRI yet. They said, well, it's probably nerves. We're going to give you this and this and this and some heavy doses of zinc. But they weren't really able to diagnose MS until 89. So you're right. After you finally are able to come down and settle on multiple sclerosis, then you can look back in your history and see that you might have had a word that I did not even know until I had MS, exacerbations. I like to call it a bad spell. I think it's a little more street friendly.
It rolls off the tongue a little easier than exacerbation.
Yeah, but if you practice it a bunch, you can start to say it pretty well. So I figure, well, talking for a living, I better learn how to say it. It's nice to have you here with the Nat'l MS Society. Angela, this is not all about me. This is about other people.
Sure.
I feel blessed. And back in the day, years ago, when I was serving on the board of directors for the MS Society, I did the keynote speech for the annual meeting down in Phoenix. I have no fear of speaking, as you can tell. Try to stop me. But I was talking about the fact that life has no guarantees. That was the focus of the speech. And I was saying that MS is something that I would not wish on anyone. But it is what it is, and there are actually some benefits. And the positives that I came away with, seriously, and I mean this from the heart, I feel happier than I was before I was diagnosed because it put the priorities all in order like that. It's not something you wish for anyone to have. We want to do the best we can to understand it, to treat it, and to get a cure. That's what we're looking for. But I talked about the fact that nobody wants car accidents to take someone's life. We don't want marriages to end. We don't want kids to go bad. But life has no guarantees. And then I talked about the things that MS, being as unpredictable as it is, could take away at any point in time. And the fact that I have been so blessed all these years to work in radio and use my voice and talk. That's one of the areas that MS could affect. And I used the example back in the day of Annette Funicello being kind of a Disney production, how we all loved her, how she was kind of a product of Walt Disney. Having been a former Mouseketeer, people watched her grow up in the public eye. Walt Disney helped to guide her into movies. When we found out she had MS, and then when she passed away from complications related to MS, boy, that breaks your heart. She was definitely something special. I do know, because of my interest in multiple sclerosis, there are a lot of people in the public eye who deal with MS.
Yes.
The list is pretty long. Richard Pryor certainly had it before his passing, as far as people still with us. Terry Garth, David Lander, who was Squiggy on Laverne and Shirley. He even came out with a book about his experiences with MS. As far as musicians, people like Clay Walker in the country field has the Band Against MS. He has it himself as well. Donna Fargo, a long time back. One of the Osmond brothers, Alan, has MS, and so does Alan's son, who would be Donnie's nephew, David Osmond. You might remember him from being on American Idol years ago, Dancing with the Stars. Who was it? Osborne.
Oh, yes, Jack Osborne.
I think you got to be in an early stage, in many cases with MS, to be able to go out and dance. At this point, I can't do that.
They've made a lot of advances in just the understanding of MS over the past 20 years, as well as treatments. 20 years ago, there was the ABC drugs, and now we have 14 out there that can really help slow the progression of MS. That makes a difference. They're doing some understanding on estrogen therapy and how, sometimes in women, when they're pregnant, the hormones that are going on in their body help lessen the chances of an exacerbation. So they're researching that. They're researching vitamin D as well. Now they're telling people to be as active as possible, as long as possible, and that will also help with the fatigue as well as your nutrition and how well you're eating. A lot of those things, even 20 years ago, they were were maybe like, okay, be cautious. And now they're like, hey, if you can walk and run and ride a bike and you want to, go for it. Do what you can while you can, and it helps keep your muscles moving, helps keep your body active. It sounds contradictory, but sometimes the movement helps with some of the fatigue. I think the bigger understanding is that the fatigue is not the same as, oh, I've had a long week, I'm tired. It's a completely different, exhaustive fatigue.
It knocks you down.
And that's usually the one thing a lot of people, especially younger people diagnosed, are saying is their biggest struggle. And getting people to understand, it's not like, oh, I had a late night, I'm tired. It's like I could nap all day and still be tired.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of the misunderstandings come from, because people can have MS and be out in the community working and look perfectly fine, but that doesn't mean that their body's not attacking itself on the inside. Really, that seems to be a big struggle. Like, I have this and it's going to take me longer to walk down the hall or, from one spot to the next, or I'm going to tire easily. So we really try to help them get a better understanding so that they can have those conversations and provide some of the resources for that. It's a challenge for a lot of people.
Angela VanBrackle is with us from the National Multiple Sclerosis Society here in Las Vegas. Everything you say resonates with me. And the fact that movement is so important, I would recommend movement to everyone. That's something that we're missing so much as Americans. Movement is critical for so many conditions and just overall health and well-being. With MS, it's almost like if I don't use it, chances are better I'm going to lose it. I need to keep moving. I need to keep those limbs active. It's hard sometimes, but it's so critical. And I know you mentioned working with the university. I am such a fan of UNLV's physical therapy program. I've worked with them. I'll be back with them next month, as a matter of fact, for an afternoon. Physical therapy is huge to me with MS, and just movement. I think it's so important. A lot of times, as you said, the symptoms of MS often are not showing on the surface. Mm-hmm. And for a lot of years, I was able to walk around people I could not guess that I had MS. These days, I do have a cane handy just in case, because I started going out on events by myself, and I started wondering if people would think I'd been drinking, because I do walk crooked.
I've heard that a lot. Like, people think I'm drunk. And I have some people, I was like, hey, you may leave the house feeling great, but especially now it's summertime, there's a heat sensitivity that comes with a lot of people living with MS. That's one of their main symptoms. If you're out and about and all of a sudden you feel tired, having a cane is easier than the fall or not knowing what to do. Sometimes it's better to be proactive on some of that. Have the canes. When you're feeling off balance, you have something to help a little bit. There's some people I know that in smaller settings or maybe in the home, they're okay on their own, but if they're going to be out all day, they'll take their motorized chair, because why exhaust yourself if you don't have to? Like, if you have the option to use some of these resources, it saves your energy for maybe dinner or, hanging out with the family after dinner, things like that. In a smaller sense, it's really prioritizing your day and figuring out, like, okay, if I have 10 things to do, where are my priorities that absolutely need to get done? What can maybe wait in case I get too tired? Or what's okay if I ask for help? People are there, whether it's family members or other agencies. There's always an opportunity to get assistance when you need it with certain things.
Absolute truth. You only have so much energy with MS, and so you have to learn how to just mete that out and hold on to it. I have a phrase, don't leave it in the parking lot. So if it means that I park closer to a place, I understand for exercise and movement reasons, I would like to park at the edge of the parking lot and walk all the way in. But I then want to walk all the way around a grocery store, push a cart, which is fun. That helps a lot right there. But by the time you've gone around a grocery store, like I like to go around Glacier's Food Marketplace and just look at everything.
Yes.
By the time I've done that, I'm worn out. So I don't want to leave it in the parking lot before I get there. You only have so much energy.
You have to judge your own energy. So there's always the recommendation to be active, but you know your body best. And maybe one day you can get up and you can take an extra long walk and you're full of energy. And maybe there's a day you wake up and you can't. You have to respect that. And you have to just kind of do what you can that day. Some days are better than others. That seems to be the struggle for a lot of people, is really coming to terms with the limits your body sets when sometimes you don't want those limits that day. And
you never want those.
Yeah, you're like, but I have all of this, and that level of stubbornness and independence where you don't want to have to ask for help with certain things, and you have to weigh that if somebody else is going to carry those groceries up, that gives me a little bit more energy, and if they can do it, ask for the help and rely on what's there as a resource for you so that you can live your best life. Nobody's telling you that this is it, but we're saying just take those goals, and you have to look at readjusting them a little bit, like you said, really prioritizing, and you can still live your best life, maybe just a little different than you had initially planned. That goes with everything else You just don't know what's going to come at you every day.
Can I recommend to every person who deals with MS, no hot tub ever, okay? Never, ever, ever, ever. You talked about the heat sensitivity. A hot tub, they fish you out and lay you on the bed. Trust me on that. Do a nice cool pool. That actually can help you. I learned years ago that there is a central cooling factor, and if you're in a moderate water pool, say 80-something degrees, you spend a few minutes in there, 20 minutes maybe, cooling the core of your body. That cooling effect can last for several hours. Go ahead and use those little tricks, because as you go, you learn them. Tricks for dealing with MS. Not done yet talking about multiple sclerosis and some of those great events like Bike MS next Saturday, Dinner of Champions, and we have lots more with Angela VanBrackle. Stay close. Talking Solutions continues after this break.